Hello everyone, a very good evening to all of you, and I welcome you all to Finance Current Affairs series. A very good evening to all of you. Good evening to all of you, and I welcome you all to Finance Good evening, Mukund. Good evening. Okay, let's start the session. So I hope I'm audible. I hope I'm visible. Can anyone just quickly confirm? Audible, visible, all set. Perfect. Thanks for confirming. Good evening, Mukund. Good evening, Chetan. Let's start. So guys, if you are preparing for RBI Grade B 2025, you can check out our complete course. This is with books. You'll be getting physical books here, and you can check the course highlights as well. You can download the Oliveboard application and join our Telegram session as well. Telegram channel as well, right? And download the previous year questions. We are having previous year question of all the regulatory body. You can download these previous year questions and start practicing it. It will definitely give you a quick background related to whatever questions are coming in the regulatory body examination. Okay. First, I have taken RBI press release related to the RBI bulletin of June 2025. We'll be having a quick summarized discussion related to these RBI bulletins. Okay. Okay. So there are 5 articles basically: state of economy, financial condition index, balance sheet channels of the monetary policy transmission, drivers of the CD issuance, predicting the CPI inflation in India. So these are the 5 broad articles on which this particular RBI bulletin June 2025 discussion we need to do in a crisp manner. The first thing is a state of economy. So as of now, the global economy is in a state of flux, reeling from the twin shocks. There are twin shocks. What are the twin shocks? The first one is the trade policy uncertainties, and the second one is the spike in the geopolitical tensions. Now, however, we have seen that the geopolitical tensions are slowing down. Okay, good evening Bhakti, good evening Aditi. Welcome. I welcome you all to this special series on finance current affairs. Very good evening to all of you. Okay, so the first thing, state of economy. India is in a the global economy is in a state of flux because of the twin shocks, trade uncertainties because of the Trump's tariff, right, and spike in the geopolitical tension. However, resilient economy activity in the India has been witnessed in industrial as well as the service sector. We all know that India's service sector is quite robust, right? India's service sector is quite robust. We have seen in the data as well. So that's mentioned in the state of economy. We'll be having a quick discussion regarding this RBI bulletin. Next is financial condition index for India. Now, what is financial condition index? It's nothing but using the indicator, using select indicators from the money market, government security market, corporate bond market, equity and forex market. They are constructing a financial condition index. So the primary objective is to construct a composite indicator that can track overall condition in the financial market. Now we all know that financial market is huge, right? Both in terms of our syllabus as well as in the real life as well, right? Financial market is having each and everything in it, whether it's money market, capital market, government securities, corporate bonds, forex market, whatnot, commodities market, right? So there should be a composite indicator, and the composite indicator is nothing but financial condition index. Yes मुकुंद, that's true. हर रिपोर्ट में, राइट, हर न्यूज में जहां पे भी अनसर्टेनिटी है वहां पे जियोपॉलिटिकल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स टॉप पे है ना. So if I talk about the category here, which is the balance sheet channel of the monetary policy transmission, insights from the Indian manufacturing firm. So monetary policy here is playing a key role in influencing the investment in fixed asset. Now what is investment in fixed asset? It is nothing but capital expenditure. Capital expenditure, we can also call it as capex. ठीक है, इसको क्या बोलते हैं हम? capex भी बोलते हैं. Whenever we do a capital expenditure, it always results in a creation of fixed asset, right? That we have discussed multiple times there. Yes, capex, very good. Right, so monetary policy here plays a crucial importance in influencing the investment in the fixed asset of manufacturing firms. Why only manufacturing firms? Because manufacturing firms need to heavily invest in capital expenditure in plant and machinery, right? Because of the presence of plant and machinery, they need to heavily invest in these heavy machineries, right? So definitely when the interest rate goes up and down, there is a direct impact on the capital expenditure of manufacturing firms. And through the balance sheet channel, a mechanism where interest rate changes can affect a firm's financial health, both cash flow and net worth, which in turn impacts the borrowing capacity and the investment decisions. Look, everything is quite linked. We do have financial decisions, we do have investment decisions. Why do we raise finance? In order to do the investment, right? So investment and finance are directly linked. They are directly linked. Why do we obtain long-term funds? Because we need to obtain long-term fixed assets, right? They both go hand in hand always. So small firms rely more on internal funds in these kind of situation, right? During the monetary policy tightening, as of now it's not happening. During the monetary policy tightening, small firms used to rely more on internal funds for investment in the fixed assets. Why? Because during the monetary policy tightening, the cost of funds is quite high, right? That's why the small firms try to rely on the internal funds rather than taking loans. Third is the driver of CD issuance. Now that's a very interesting point. Okay, we'll be covering it separately as well, and that's important, I personally feel, from your examination perspective. What is CD? Certificate of deposit. Certificate of deposit, right? So here are the key highlights that public sector banks rely on CD issuances more than private sector bank, and you'll be surprised to see the data of public sector bank in terms of certificate of deposit. They have drastically improved, right? Increased dramatically. I'll definitely tell you in the coming few slides. I think it's there somewhere in the end of this session, right? That slide is there on somewhere at the end of this session. I have covered it. So we'll be talking about the data as well related to public sector bank. Public sector banks are heavily relying on the CD issuances more than the private sector bank. And on the investor side, mutual funds remain the dominant player. So do remember this particular line. Mutual funds are heavily investing in CDs, right? Obviously, because some of the mutual funds are related to debt instruments as well, right? Are debt mutual funds as well. Plus, the regular mutual funds also need to park their money. So usually they park in the CDs. Okay. Now, public sector bank enjoys lower cost of CD issuance on an average than others. For small finance bank, the rate is usually higher than the others. Why? Why the rate of CD is higher in case of small finance bank? Because small finance banks are considered risky as compared to the other public sector banks and private sector banks. That's why obviously the investor will demand a higher premium, right? Let's suppose if I tell you that you are having 1 crore rupee, let's suppose for example, you are having 1 crore rupees to invest. If I tell you that invest in FD, what will be your expectation? 6%, 7%, 8% maximum. The moment I tell you to invest directly in stocks, your interest will definitely increase, right? Your expectation of the rate of interest, return on your investment will definitely increase. Why? Obviously because you are investing in stocks. वहाँ पे भी अगर मैं आपको बोलूँ कि आपको 8% मिलेगा, will you be interested? No. आपके सबसे पहली लाइन ही आप ये बोलोगे कि सर इतना करना होता, 8% ही कमाना होता तो we would have switched to FD only. FD करवा लेते, फिर रिस्क क्यों लेते स्टॉक मार्केट का, राइट? So that's a basic finance की equation. Whenever there is a higher risk, there should be a higher return to compensate this risk. That's obvious, right? every investor will demand higher return for taking higher risk. So that's why the rate of interest of small finance bank on CDs is usually higher than the others, because small finance banks are considered riskier than the normal banks, right? Fifth was predicting the CPI inflation is in India. So combating forecast from a suite of statistical and machine learning models. So they are computing it from statistical and machine learning models. The study develops a methodology to forecast headline and core CPI inflation in India using combination of statistical and machine learning and deep learning models. These all are the models of AI only, right? Yes, that's true, Chetan. That depends on client to client basis, but however, whenever you will be taking risk, you will definitely demand a good amount of premium as well, right? So key highlights for this is the approach of combining the forecast of statistical ML and DL. DL stands for deep learning, ML stands for machine learning, is found to have similar or even better accuracy than the standalone models. So obviously AI models are far better than the normal models that we were using, right? This approach can also generate density forecast for inflation, which can be used to determine measures of uncertainty and asymmetries. Definitely if we are using AI, so definitely it can give us a multiple scenario wala thing, definitely, है ना? उससे क्या होता है, multiple scenarios can be predicted because we are using ML and DL here. So that's what the core highlight of the fifth point is. So the 5 points are state of economy, financial condition index, which is nothing but a financial market ka composite interest index, right? Then balance sheet channel of monetary policy. Here we have discussed ki when the monetary policy tightening happens, then small firms are relying on the internal funds, and it directly affects the investing as well as financing decisions, right, of the manufacturing companies especially. Then we discussed about the driver of CD issuance. There we discussed about the public sector banks are issuing CDs more than the private sector bank, and small finance banks are here commanding a premium, right? And liquidity condition, interest rate expectation, volatility determine the CD issuance in the long run. So CD issuance is dependent on these three things: liquidity condition, interest rate expectation, and VIX. What do you mean by VIX? ये वाली VIX नहीं है जो आप समझ रहे हो. This is called as volatility index. Now what is volatility index? Look, whenever the stock market is in the normal range, the VIX is low. The VIX is low. However, the moment stock market moves like this, whether upside or downside doesn't matter. Whether upside or downside doesn't matter. The range is quite wide. So VIX increases in that case. Why? Because it shows volatility, how much volatility the stock market is having. So it's nothing but a volatility index. अगर massive moves आएंगे stock market में, भले ऊपर की हो नीचे की हो, doesn't matter. Whether stock market is moving in the upward direction or downward direction, VIX will increase. Okay, that's volatility index. We also do have a VIX in India that's called as India VIX. Okay, आप देख सकते हो. If you are interested in stock market, you can go and check the VIX data for March 2020. March 2020 का data देखना, एकदम से sudden spike आया था. Why? Because of the COVID crisis. Yes, India VIX. Because of the COVID crisis, India VIX went up to, I think, 50, 60 or 70 level. I don't exactly remember, but the move was quite massive. Okay. So these are the 5 parameters on which the RBI bulletins have been released. Next is recommendation of working group on the comprehensive review of trading and settlement timings. So RBI here has relaxed some of the trading and settlement timings of various market regulated by the Reserve Bank of India. So Reserve Bank of India is regulating many types of market here. So they have changed the timings as well. Why? Because the aim is to facilitating the further market development, price discovery and optimization of liquidity requirement. यार देखो, हर चीज का घूम फिर के फाइनेंशियल मार्केट में यही रीजन आता है, मार्केट डेवलपमेंट हो, प्राइस डिस्कवरी हो पाए, ऑप्टिमाइजेशन हो पाए लिक्विडिटी का. सही है. सो आरबीआई हैज रिकमेंडेड द फॉलोइंग थिंग्स हियर. Market timings for call money shall be extended to 7 p.m. with effect from 1st of July. So the revised market timing of the call money market will be 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. The trading hour market of market repo and tri-party repo agreement ट्रेप्स का क्या रहेगा 4 PM तक एक्सटेंड हो जाएगा फ्रॉम 1st of August. So the new timing here will be 9 to 4. So कॉल मनी का कितना हो गया 9 to 7. ट्रेप का कितना हो गया 9 to 4. And trading hours of the government security market, forex market and interest rate derivative, it remains unchanged. Okay, they haven't changed the time of government security market, forex market or interest rate derivatives as of now. Okay, so this is a quick update. Next is review of priority sector lending norms for small finance bank. Very, very important for your examination. We have already discussed the circular, I think in March. Okay, I think in March ending, most probably you will be finding that circular on the first part of March. Okay, in RBI circular. So there we have discussed the new priority sector lending guidelines. However, there is a change in the priority sector guidelines related to small finance bank. Okay, what is the change? The change is very straight and simple. Earlier SFBs were required to allocate 75% of the ANBC to the priority sector lending. So SFBs used to contribute 75% towards the priority sector lending, and that too out of the 75%, they were compulsorily required to contribute 40% to PSL subsectors that RBI has prescribed. So RBI has prescribed certain PSL subsectors. अब PSL के अंदर भी there are many sectors. तो RBI ने बोला पहले 40% इन सेक्टर्स में डालो, कंपल्शन है. Rest of the 35% you can give to other sectors as well which are not prescribed. Now we are having a lot of sectors in PSL. RBI ने बोला पहले तुम ये 40% इन कुछ सेक्टर्स में डालो, बचे हुए 35% वापस या तो इनमें डाल सकते हो या फिर रेस्ट ऑफ द नॉन प्रिस्क्राइब वाले में डाल सकते हो. ओके, सो दिस वाज द क्राइटेरिया. दिस इज द अर्लियर क्राइटेरिया, है ना. दिस इज द अर्लियर क्राइटेरिया. सर पहले का क्यों पढ़ा रहे हो, नया पढ़ाओ ना. अरे एग्जाम में कितनी बार पूछ लेते हैं पुरानी लिमिट भी कभी कभी, राइट. आई पर्सनली डोंट प्रेफर कि कभी पुरानी लिमिट पूछी जाए, राइट. इट डजंट मेक एनी सेंस. जो चेंज हो गया उसको क्या पूछना. बट आई हैव सीन इन वन ऑफ द प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन पेपर दे हैव आस्क्ड द अर्लियर लिमिट व्हिच डजंट मेक एनी सेंस, राइट. Still, major change. Now they have given 60% instead of 75%. So now SFBs are not required to allocate 75% to priority sector lending. It will be fine if they can even contribute 60%, right? 60% दे दोगे तो भी चलेगा. सर कौन सी वाली कम करी, क्योंकि इसके अंदर एक तो 40 हुआ करती थी और एक 35 हुआ करती थी. तो 35 वाले को कम करके कितना कर दिया, 20 कर दिया. They have reduced it to 20. So 40% you need to compulsorily allocate in the RBI prescribed PSL. RBI ने कहा भाई हम तो नहीं मानेंगे, हमने जो बोला एक बार जो मैंने कमिटमेंट कर दी तो 40% तो तुमको यहाँ पे देना ही पड़ेगा. किसमें, RBI prescribed PSL में. However, rest of the remaining 20% you can definitely allocate. You can freely allocate across any PSL as you like. Okay, that's the regulatory guideline. Now reduces the regulatory burden. Obviously earlier we used to contribute to 75%. now you will be only contributing 60%. So your contribution has fallen by 15%, right? So you can grant 15% loans and advances to somebody else rather than the PSL. And obviously the other category is high yielding, high interest yielding, right? It's not a PSL, then obviously it's a high interest yielding. So it reduces the regulatory burden plus promote the targeted and sustainable lending by the small finance bank here. Okay, so do remember this update. This update is very, very important for your examination, right? High chances are there that they can ask you regarding the PSL in the objective question. They can even ask you in the descriptive. If they are asking you in the descriptive, you can definitely write this particular, you can give a reference of this particular news that they have reduced the PSL lending norms for small finance bank. right? So do remember this particular thing. I have given you an example as well, plus this is covered in much detailed manner in the regular sessions as well. You can definitely watch that particular video related to the review of PSL, right? There was one more change in the PSL ka criteria, however it was a prudential requirement mein change. Okay, so we all know that we are having prudential norms already stated by the RBI. So prudential treatment of PSL shortfall contribution. So whenever there is a shortfall in the PSL contribution, you need to contribute to the fund, to the institutions like NABARD, NHB, SEBI, Mudra. So basically what the main purpose here is, if you are a UCB, Urban Cooperative Bank, you can either directly contribute to the PSL, right? Or you can definitely contribute to the funds like the Chetan has just mentioned about the RIDF fund, right? So either you can contribute to the RIDF fund if you are having any kind of shortfall in the priority sector lending. कोई बात नहीं, इधर शॉर्टफॉल हो गया, आप क्या करो, RIDF फंड के अंदर कंट्रीब्यूट कर दो. अल्टीमेटली वो कहां पे जाएगा, नाबार्ड, NHB, SEBI, मुद्रा के अंदर जाएगा. एंड इवेंचुअली दीज इंस्टीट्यूशंस विल अगेन डाइवर्ट दीज फंड्स टू दी PSL ओनली, क्योंकि मेजरली इनका काम ही वही है, राइट? समझना बात को. एग्जिस्टिंग रूल्स क्या बोलते हैं? एग्जिस्टिंग रूल्स बोलते हैं देयर इज अ एक्सपोजर नॉर्म. You cannot have an exposure of more than 15% of tier 1 capital to a single borrower, and if group entity is concerned 25% of your tier 1 capital. इससे ज़्यादा exposure you cannot have, right? If you are doing investment, you cannot have exposure more than that. That's the limit. Now the problem is, whenever we are investing in these funds of NABARD, NHB, SEBI, Mudra, the RIDF, the limits get exhausted. The limit again gets consumed. So that's why there is an update in the circular that RBI has exempted contribution made to the NABARD and other bodies from being counted towards these exposures. So now if I am making contribution to these institutions in RIDF, this limit won't apply. This is a separate limit, and RBI has given an exemption to urban cooperative banks here. Okay, so do remember this particular news as well, right? Okay, so contribution made by the UCB towards the eligible funds, if there are shortfall in the PSL, you will be contributing towards the eligible fund, and these eligible funds will be having a risk weight of 100%. They will be classified as in the category of all the other asset, right? And risk weight will be 100%. Do remember this thing, this can be important. Okay, so that means these funds will need to have a full capital backing. If risk weights are 100%, that means you are in a higher bracket already. So you need to maintain adequate capital adequacy ratio, right? And maintaining high capital adequacy ratio means you are having a full capital backing, right? So that's the basic idea behind this. Next is RBI issues the project finance directions. I have already covered these project finance direction in a detailed video. I will request you guys to please watch that video, right? It's not practically possible to cover each and every direction in these finance current affairs. That's why we bring separate videos on the circulars. Plus we definitely come up with the RBI circular series as well. After every month end, we cover it in 2 or 3 videos. There you can cover all the RBI related master directions and circulars in that series as well, right? So I'll just share major highlights from the project finance direction. First of all, what is the meaning of project finance? Let's suppose you are about to invest heavily in a large project and you need finance for that. That means project finance, right? Let's suppose if I want to invest in a highway project, so the finance that I'll be obtaining for this kind of project will be a project finance. Why? Because it's a long term in nature, right? It's a long term in nature. The finance will be quite long term. Sometimes the loans are 10 years, 20 years down the line. So there are a lot of requirements here. First thing is rationalization of standard asset provisioning requirement to 1% for projects under construction, and if the construction is CRE related, commercial residential related, then slightly higher 1.5% 0.25% is given. Okay, so these are the provisioning norms related to standard asset. Please go with that particular video. Please watch that particular video related to the project finance directions. I have everything covered in that particular video, right? So there are two things here, CRE and CRERH. CRE means nothing but commercial real estate project, right? However, CRERH means commercial real estate residential housing. Do remember this RH stands for residential housing. What is the difference? The difference is quite sorted. They are always promoting the residential housing. You can see here that the asset provisioning norms is quite less as compared to the normal commercial real estate project, which is 0.75%. However, for the residential housing, it's just 0.40%. Why? Obviously, when you are doing a CRE project, let's suppose you are building shops. You bought a land and you are building shops, right? This is a commercial complex, so this will be a part of CRE. However, if you are building an apartment, a residential apartment, then definitely the government will promote you, right? So that will come under the CRERH. Okay, so this particular project finance directions are काफ़ी बड़े हैं साइज के अंदर, सो आई एडवाइज यू टू प्लीज वॉच दैट डिटेल्ड वीडियो इंस्टेड ऑफ डूइंग इन द फाइनेंस करंट अफेयर्स. ओके, देयर आर लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स टू बी कवर्ड. बिफोर covering this, I need to cover a lot of basic definitions as well, right? There are so many technical terminologies in this circular. That's why I'm requesting you guys to please watch that particular video related to project finance directions, right? And this will be very important for your examination again. So do cover it. Next is IFC anchors $60 million equity in Motilal Oswal alternate fifth private equity fund. Do you guys understand what do you mean by private equity fund? What is private equity? Any idea? Any idea about that? So this news is not so important. However, the terminologies which are there in this news, like private equity, green shoe option, these terms, these finance terms are important for you guys. Look, private equity means such a fund. Private equity fund means a fund which is investing your money in privately held companies. Let's suppose I do have Prateek Taldar Private Limited. Now if you are investing your money in my company, I'm offering you a equity which is private, right? As of now, it's not at all public, not listed, right? Not listed. Or I can say it's a privately held company, right? Yes, but I think CSK is a public limited company as of now, right? It's unlisted. However, it's a public limited company. Broadly, they are the risk takers. They are the risk takers because investing in a private limited company can be highly risky. The shares are not at all listed as of now, and nobody knows when the listing will happen, right? However, big investors do invest it because higher the risk, higher will be the return, right? Just like we can see in the case of NSC share. I don't know if you are following it or not. If you have seen the NSC shares price, it has almost doubled in a very short period of time, right? Yes. Okay, so IFSC has anchored 60 million equity in the Motilal Oswal alternative, and there is a green shoe option as well. Green shoe means the target corpus here is $750 million. However, if they need more money, then there is a green shoe option of 150 million as well. So green shoe is nothing but optional additional funding that can be given, right? Rest you don't have to cover each and everything related to this particular news. The headline says it all. I just wanted to let you know these terminologies related to finance rather than going into too much detail, right? Not all the news are important. Bajaj Alliance launches India's first state-wise health insurance plan. So this is India's first state-wise health insurance plan. As of now, there was no such product. However, Bajaj has launched a state-wise health insurance plan. So premium, coverage and the benefits will be different in accordance with respective states. So what they are doing is they are playing a data-driven game. Not all the states do have the same kind of demographics, right? Do have the same kind of requirements. So they have launched a tailor-made product, I can say, state-wise tailor-made product, insurance related, health insurance related product. That's the India's first product that Bajaj Alliance has launched. This news is not so important, just the headline, if you know just the headline, because this is the India's first product, state-wise product. That's why I'm covering it. Rest you don't have to cover this in detail. Okay. Next, now this particular news you need to know. India maintains the leadership in the greenfield FDI amid global downtrend. So the FDI trend globally is in the downtrend. However, India is still maintaining the leadership, and I would like to tell you that India ranked 15th globally. India is ranked 15th. The rank is 15 for FDI inflows in 2024. So we are having 15th rank globally for the FDI inflows in 2024. In 2023 we were having the 16th rank, and now we are slightly up to 15th. Okay, the net inflows were $28 billion. $28 billion के net inflows हुए थे. These are the net inflows. Okay, despite of a global FDI decline of 11%, the global FDI declined. However, the India's net FDI increased. And there's a term greenfield. Do you guys understand the meaning of greenfield? Any idea about that? Any idea about that? Look, so greenfield FDI refers to FDI in new facilities such as plants or offices, unlike the acquisition of the existing entities. So it can be completely different. Let's suppose I am investing in Reliance. That's a already existing company, right? However, if the investment is coming in new facilities such as plants and offices, rather than doing acquisition of the existing entities, it reflects a fresh capital which is coming into the country. Obviously, fresh capital is coming. New plant and machinery, offices are being acquired. That means capacity building will happen. Capacity of the nation will increase definitely. The capital is being diverted into the new sector rather than the existing ones, right? So it results in creation of new productive assets rather than just cherishing the already very well doing sectors, right? Yes. Brownfield is just the opposite of that, right? Okay, so if we see the RBI data, then it indicates that manufacturing, financial services, energy, electricity, telecommunication accounted for 60% of the FDI inflows. So these sectors are accounting for 60% of the total FDI inflows here, right? If I talk globally, then FDI is falling. However, India has still maintained 15th position overall, right? And I have given you all the terminologies as well. So later on you can read these terminology. If you don't know greenfield, वैसे तो I have explained it, right? However, maybe you don't know gross FDI, equity inflow, net FDI. So you can later on download this PDF and read these basic terms as well. Next is TCS partners with Council of Europe Development Bank to modernize the operation. So we all know that TCS is having a product which is TCS Banks, right? This is for the reconciliation purpose. Many of the banks are also using it. And TCS has partnered with Council of Europe Development Bank. Now, what is Council of Europe Development Bank? Nothing. It's a social development bank, a Paris-based social development bank driven by a mandate to support the vulnerable population. Okay. So definitely it's supporting the vulnerable population in terms of affordable housing, health, education and sectors like that. So TCS has just done a partnership. Okay, not to cover in too much detail. Next, Tata Elxsi and This particular organization has partnered to drive the EV innovation in India. Not so important. Just try to remember this headline. That's again fine. The two organizations have partnered to drive the EV innovation of India. Now there are a lot of technical stuff in this particular news. No need to read that. Okay, it will just waste your time. So that's why I have summarized it in one page. High chances won't be coming in examination. That's why I'm not going into detail. SEBI eases compliance norms for FPI investing only in G securities, government securities. Important. कौन impact हो रहा है? FPI, foreign portfolio investors, that are exclusively investing in the government securities. They are known as GSFPI. They don't care about the equity market. They are just only investing in the government securities. That's why we call them as GSFPI, government securities foreign portfolio investor. Now there was a KYC periodicity which was quite frequent imposed by SEBI. Now SEBI has relaxed that. उन्होंने बोला यार तुम आरबीआई का जो टाइमलाइन है वही फॉलो कर लो, हमारा टाइमलाइन बहुत ही ज़्यादा फ्रीक्वेंट है केवाईसी रिलेटेड, लेट्स फॉलो द टाइमलाइन ऑफ आरबीआई ओनली, राइट. तो पहला एग्जेम्पशन यहाँ मिला, रिलैक्स कर दिया थोड़ा केवाईसी पीरियोडिसिटी को कम करके. ग्रुप डिस्क्लोजर्स वेव्ड. अर्लियर दीज काइंड ऑफ फॉरेन पोर्टफोलियो इन्वेस्टर्स नीड टू गिव ग्रुप डिस्क्लोजर इंफॉर्मेशन. नाउ जीएसएफपीआई डोंट हैव टू डिस्क्लोज द इन्वेस्टर ग्रुप डिटेल्स. Considered unnecessary for the low risk sovereign bonds, right? Obviously we know that GSFPI are quite low risk. They don't have much risk embedded in it, right? Just like any other financial instrument. So they have relaxed these norms of KYC periodicity कि RBI की follow कर लो. Group disclosures को waive कर दिया कि रहने दो यार, मत बताओ तुम में कौन invest कर रहा है, doesn't matter. Extended reporting window. If any material change was there, these FPI need to disclose that thing within 7 days. Now 7 days is quite short time, right? It's a cut to cut time. They have increased it to 30 days. They have increased it to 30 days. They have expanded the investor scope as well. Now they allow the FPI from NRIs, OCIs, resident Indians as well to invest these in GSFPI. Earlier many restrictions were there. However, the LRS condition will still apply. What is the purpose and rationale of doing so? For long-term capital inflows in the government bond market, right? Risk-based regulations. अब इतना रिस्क ही नहीं है उस फाइनेंशियल इंस्ट्रूमेंट में, तो क्यों उसके ऊपर इतनी कंप्लायंस करनी है, राइट? There should be a free market. India is still a very restrictive market, I will say. बहुत सारी चीजों पे बहुत सारे restrictions है, like, right? क्रिप्टो करेंसीज को लेके अभी तक we don't have regulations, right? I have read somewhere in the news, I think I have covered also in the finance current affairs series, that RBI is working on the cryptocurrency related regulations, right, with government of India. Still, if you can see the developed economies, the developed financial markets like United States, they have launched cryptocurrency related ETFs as well, exchange traded funds as well, right? So they are way ahead. They are way ahead. Impact and market responses. So we all know that GSFPI holdings under the FAR crossed 3 trillion in March 2025. I think we have covered it in finance current affairs related to March 2025. So it was nearly a double digit from the earlier. In 2024 it was just 1.74, and in March 2025 it was it crossed the 3 trillion rupee ka mark, right? So definitely here the regulators are relaxing the requirement so that more penetration can be done in the government securities market, right? Next, again, Indian coffee export surge 25% in early financial year 2026. So here there is a quite good growth, I will say, in the exports of Indian coffee. There is a 25% plus increase, that too in the early financial year 25-26 only, right? Following a 40% rise in the last financial year. So in 2025 there was a 40.2% increase. However, if I talk about financial year 2026, which is still ongoing, there is already a 25% increase which is quite high. अभी तो पूरा फाइनेंशियल ईयर ही बाकी है, अभी हुआ ही क्या है, जून तो चल रहा है राइट, अप्रैल में जून 3 महीने, तो 3 महीने भी पूरे नहीं हुए, एंड दे हैव डन 25% पहले क्वार्टर में ही, सो दैट्स ह्यूज. ग्लोबल रैंकिंग, इंडिया रिमेन्स वर्ल्ड्स 7th लार्जेस्ट कॉफी प्रोड्यूसर एज ऑफ नाउ राइट, एंड 5th लार्जेस्ट एक्सपोर्टर. तो कॉफी के अंदर यहाँ पे इंडियन मार्केट ने काफी अच्छा परफॉर्म किया. अप्रोक्सीमेटली 80% ऑफ द इंडियन कॉफी इज एक्सपोर्टेड. सो इंडिया जितना प्रोडक्शन कर रहा है उसका ऑलमोस्ट 80% दे आर एक्सपोर्टिंग राइट. एंड डेफिनेटली अगर आप एक्सपोर्ट कर रहे हो तो वहां पे आपका एक्सपोर्ट डाइवर्सिफिकेशन हो रहा है, इट्स अ न्यू लाइन, प्लस एफएक्स सपोर्ट, फॉरेक्स सपोर्ट भी आपको मिल रहा है, यू आर ब्रिंगिंग इन द फॉरेन करेंसी एज वेल राइट. Next is unified lending interface. What is unified lending interface? It's nothing but a consent-based digital platform. Unified lending interface. So it's a unified platform allowing the lenders. Now let's suppose if I am lending you guys money. So how come I will be knowing your financial and non-financial data? I can definitely access the ULI. Right? Yes, land records का UPI. That's perfect. So let's suppose if I am lending you money, then now how come I know your financial and non-financial data? So definitely I can access the ULI data. The ULI is storing data related to finance and non-finance data like land records, credit scores, eKYC, PAN and whatnot. Now they are sourcing it through multiple entities. Through standardized API. API means application program interface. You don't have to worry about that, right? Let's suppose a bank or a regulatory body already have some kind of data, so ULI can access via API, application program interface. यहाँ पे क्या होता है, सिर्फ एक particular information share कर दी जाती है. That's called as API. Now it's developed by RBI Innovation Hub in collaboration with RBI and DFS, right? Designed for frictionless and rapid credit delivery. There is a huge data problem when it comes to lending, so ULI is solving that problem, right? Benefits obviously faster loan processing, credit inclusion, enhanced credit inclusion, and integrated credit infrastructure will be there, right? Sir, why you are teaching us ULI? Finance current affairs क्या है, तो समझना finance current affair क्या है. Recently there was a meeting. There was a high level meeting. The DFS secretary and the RBI deputy governor and some of the top level wale log have done a high level meeting related to the ULI. They want the data integration to be faster, right? So ministry and states have urged to integrate the high value database like land, tax, utility subsidy, Aadhaar, PAN, etc. quickly in the ULI via APIs. Nodal officer nomination also happened. The digitization of drive was also there, right? So land records is quite a big problem as of now in India, right? And the government is on their way to solve that. However, still long way to go. अभी तक यही सॉल्व नहीं कर पाए कि कौन सी लैंड किसकी है, राइट? देयर आर a lot of legal disputes related to land. However, इन चीज़ों से काफ़ी हद तक ये सारी प्रॉब्लम सॉर्ट हो जाने वाली है, राइट? सो देयर वाज अ हाई लेवल कमिटी डिस्कशन रिलेटेड टू द यूएलआई एंड एज जनरल एज वेल कि ये यूएलआई यूपीआई ये सब आपके एग्जामिनेशन के लिए इंपॉर्टेंट है. प्लस द नेशनल विजन इज यूएलआई इज positioned as the India's next UPI if we talk about the digital public infrastructure for credit delivery. Okay, next, L&T launches India's first ESG bond on NSE. Larsen and Toubro listed company है, सब जानते हो. फर्स्ट ESG बॉन्ड लॉन्च किया है NSE पे, बोलने की नीड नहीं है. ESG most important topic for your 2025 RBI Grade B examination for descriptive purpose. शॉर्ट या तो ऑब्जेक्टिव क्वेश्चन मिलेगा या डिस्क्रिप्टिव क्वेश्चन मिलेगा. मोर देन 70 to 80% चांस है दिस टॉपिक कैन कम इन योर एग्जामिनेशन, राइट? और मेरे को बोलने की नीड भी नहीं होनी चाहिए बिकॉज वी हैव सीन सो मेनी न्यूज रिलेटेड टू ESG. वी हैव प्रैक्टिस डिस्क्रिप्टिव क्वेश्चंस एज वेल, हमने BRSR पढ़ लिया है, पूरा ESG पढ़ लिया है, राइट। और जल्दी ही मैं वापस एक और लेक्चर लाने वाला हूँ रिलेटेड टू ESG और BRSR। अगेन वी विल बी redoing the same things that we have done earlier as well, considering the importance of this topic. So L&T launches India's first ESG bond on the NSE National Stock Exchange पे, raising 500 crore through non-convertible debentures. Non-convertible debentures के थ्रू ये हो रहा है। Coupon rate is 6.35%. You don't have to remember the coupon rate. Tenure is 3 years and the HSBC is acting as a sole arranger for the issuer. Definitely इतने बड़े issues manage करने के लिए एक लीड बैंकर, लीड अरेंजर चाहिए होता है, तो वो HSBC कर रहा है यहाँ पे इनके लिए, राइट। सो these bonds were issued under the SEBI's new ESG and sustainability linked bond framework. We have done this framework. I don't know whether you remember or not. This was released on 5th of June. I have done a detailed video as well on this. Plus we have covered it in finance current affairs as well, right? I don't know whether you guys remember it or not. SEBI ने नए ESG and sustainability linked bonds लेके आए थे, राइट। वहाँ पर हमने बहुत सारे bonds पढ़े थे, अगर याद हो तो। सस्टेनेबिलिटी बॉन्ड्स अलग थे, सस्टेनेबिलिटी लिंक्ड बॉन्ड्स अलग थे, है ना। वो सर्कुलर तुम्हारे एग्जाम के लिए सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट होने वाला है 2025 के अंदर। PSL और ये सस्टेनेबिलिटी लिंक्ड वाला बॉन्ड्स, दिस कैन बी वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर योर एग्जामिनेशन। सर आप तो हर सर्कुलर के लिए ही बोलते हो वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। देखो यार, कुछ सर्कुलर वेरी वेरी से भी ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाते हैं, और ये 2 सर्कुलर वैसे ही हैं, है ना। ES चेतन, सो डू कवर दैट थिंग, ओके, ऑन प्रायोरिटी। बाकी नेक्स्ट क्या लिखा हुआ है डजंट मैटर। देखो क्या रिक्वायरमेंट्स है, इतना न्यूज़ की डिटेल में नहीं जाना है, वी नो क्या इंपॉर्टेंट है इसके अंदर, राइट। IndusInd Bank was awarded by DFS, Department of Financial Services, for excellence in digital payments, right? For excellence in digital payments, IndusInd Bank को अवार्ड मिला है यहाँ पे, right? Department of Financial Service ने यहाँ पे दिया है, ठीक है। और IndusInd Bank को बहुत सारे अवार्ड मिले 2025 में, okay? So that was a sarcasm. I don't know whether you guys remember or not. IndusInd Bank को बहुत सारे इश्यूज अभी फेस करने पड़े थे ड्यू टू अ डिस्क्रिपेंसी इन दी डेरिवेटिव डिस्क्लोजर्स, राइट। सो बहुत सारे इनके इनिशिएटिव्स थे डिजिटल 2.0 के, जिस वजह से इनको अवार्ड मिला। यू डोंट हैव टू रिमेंबर दीज इनिशिएटिव्स, ओके। नेक्स्ट, HPI rises 3.1% in Q4 of financial year 2025, right? What is HPI? What do you guys mean by HPI? Best corporate governance, worst corporate governance in banking sector, right? IndusInd Bank। अच्छा, कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है ना आप लोगों के एग्जामिनेशन के लिए, और हर साल ही इंपॉर्टेंट है। जो 2026 में दे रहे हैं उनके लिए भी इंपॉर्टेंट है। कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस का इंपॉर्टेंस बढ़ता चला जा रहा है बैंकिंग सेक्टर के अंदर, एज वी कैन सी सो मेनी फ्रॉड्स हैपनिंग इन दी बैंकिंग इंडस्ट्री, राइट। सो HPI हाउसिंग प्राइस इंडेक्स यहाँ पे बढ़ चुका है 3.1% से ईयर ऑन ईयर बेसिस, इफ यू टॉक अबाउट दी Q4 of financial year 2025, right? So last quarter में it was 4.1, now it is 3.1 as of now. Highest annual price rise कहाँ पे हुआ है? कोलकाता में हुआ है 8.8% का, right? RBI का पर्सपेक्टिव देखो, RBI क्यों HPI को कंसिडर करता है? सबसे पहली बात तो मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी के अंदर यूज आता है, फाइनेंशियल स्टेबिलिटी कंसर्न होता है, रीजनल डिस्पैरिटी होती है, रियल एस्टेट, हाउसिंग सेक्टर, इन सबको बहुत प्रायोरिटी देता है गवर्नमेंट, राइट। ये गवर्नमेंट का फेवरेट सेक्टर होता है रियल एस्टेट वाला, ओके। दैट्स व्हाई RBI also gives priority to this data. Net direct tax collection falls 1.39% to 4.59 lakh crore in April to June फाइनेंशियल ईयर 2026। तो नेट डायरेक्ट टैक्स कलेक्शन जो हुआ है वो यहाँ पे गिर गया है 1.39%। 1.39% देख के छोटा लगता है, पर देखो अमाउंट कितना बड़ा अमाउंट नेट डायरेक्ट टैक्स कलेक्शन से आता है, राइट। एंड दोज हु डोंट नो, टैक्सेस के दो पार्ट होते हैं, डायरेक्ट टैक्स, इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स. इफ आई टॉक अबाउट इनकम टैक्स, दैट इज अ काइंड ऑफ डायरेक्ट टैक्स. हाउएवर इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स के अंदर क्या आता है, जीएसटी आ जाता है, राइट, गुड्स एंड सर्विस टैक्स आ जाता है. और क्यों फॉल हुआ था, ऑब्वियसली ग्रॉस डायरेक्ट टैक्स कलेक्शन, सॉरी एडवांस टैक्स कलेक्शन कम होने की वजह से, प्लस काफी सारे रिफंड्स इशू होने की वजह से. ओके, रिफंड्स काफी सारे इशू हुए थे, 58% रिफंड इशुएंस हुए थे. ओके, so that's why there is a decline in the direct tax collection as of now. Indian money in Swiss bank triples to 37,600 crore in 2024, so that's big. Swiss bank में पैसा क्यों रखा जाता है, I don't think मेरे को बताने की नीड होगी. So that's triple almost to 37,600 crore in 2024. Okay, as compared to the 2021. This is the 2024 का data, right? The major inflows were due to through other banks and financial entities. So let's suppose if I am routing my money through an Indian bank in a Swiss bank, this is called as through other bank or financial entities. So that was the मेजर रीजन जहां से इनफ्लो हुआ था, सॉरी आउटफ्लो हुआ था, राइट, स्विस बैंक्स के अंदर. रीजंस क्या है देखो, आप पढ़ सकते हो, ठीक है. पर्टिकुलरली दिस न्यूज इज नॉट सो इंपॉर्टेंट. ओके, सो रीजंस यू कैन डेफिनेटली हैव अ क्विक लुक बाय डाउनलोडिंग द पीडीएफ. नेक्स्ट इज इंडियाज आउटवर्ड एफडीआई एट $2.83 बिलियन इन May 2025. So इंडिया का आउटवर्ड एफडीआई एट $2.83 billion in May 2025. We can see here different instruments. If I talk about equity as compared to May 2024, it has substantially decreased. However, if I talk about the debt, you can see a substantial increase. 261 से directly 1200 plus. There is a fall in the guarantees as well, right? There is a fall in the guarantee as well. So if I talk about, there is a shift. If I talk about the data, then there is a shift from equity to debt. So Indian firms appear to prefer structured lending over taking a direct ownership abroad. So Indian firms don't prefer, because this is the outward FDI, right? हमने किया है FDI बाहर, outward है, inward नहीं है. This is not inward. Foreign country से नहीं आया, हमारी country से बाहर गया है. So Indian firms, clearly we can see that they are preferring structured lending rather than a direct ownership. Obviously, if you are taking a ownership, there is a high amount of risk as well along with the return, right? Guarantees काफी reduce हो चुकी है, so that's a cautious stance. April abnormality, इसको आप ignore कर सकते हो. April में data was quite different as compared to May, right? However, we can consider the relevant data, recent data only. Next is NPCI to roll out NACH 3.0 in July 2024. Now, can you guys tell me what is NACH? What do you guys understand by NACH? Any idea about that? NACH. It stands for National Automated Clearing House. Now, how the organizations, how the banks are processing your salaries. Let's suppose in an organization there are 1000 employees. Now the organization needs to pay them the salary. Obviously, it will be done by a bank only, right? Do you think that the organization can start doing RTGS and NEFT? Not possible. Not possible. 1000 RTGS करोगे, 1000 NEFT करोगे. So this is a bulk and recurring interbank transaction system. National Automated Clearing House. Whenever we need to process the transaction in bulk, and the transactions are of recurring nature like salary credits, pension payouts, SIP debits, utility bills, subsidies, that are recurring transactions, right? We can do it via NACH, obviously. So NACH 3.0 is likely to come out in July 2025. That's an important news for you guys for this examination. Okay, definitely it's aimed at speed ko badhana, accelerating the speed, enhancing the security and improving the user experience. There will be faster transaction processing as compared to the earlier system in terms of salary credits, pensions, SIP debits, right? Strengthen security measures plus operational efficiency will also increase, and the problem of transaction failure will also get decreased, है ना? Yes, dividend receipts भी इसके थ्रू होती है ना, सारे bulk processing किसके थ्रू होते हैं? NACH के थ्रू होते हैं सारे, right? So definitely a lot of consumer benefits will also be there, improved security, quicker credit receipts and all, right? So do remember this thing that NPCI is going to roll out the NACH 3.0 in July 2025. Next is SEBI eases the compliance for FPI in the G6 and provide ESOP relief to the startup. Do you guys understand about ESOP? Employee stock option plan. Any idea about that? So SEBI has यहाँ पे ease the compliance of FPI in the G6, and there is a relief for the ESOP holders as well. Yes, employee stock option plan. What happens here is, look, the share price of companies are increasing day by day, right? But the employees of the company are getting only the salaries, which is fixed. So can I say that they have a fixed incentive? They have always a fixed incentive. They cannot participate in the growth of the company because they are not the shareholders, they are employees, right? So sometimes some companies offer employees ESOPs, employee stock option plan, so that employee can also feel the sense of ownership. So here organization promises to give employees certain shares which are called as ESOPs, employee stock option plan. इसका direct full form भी आ सकता है आपके एग्जाम के अंदर, right? Though this topic is not there in your syllabus directly, however, they can ask you the full form, the meaning of this ESOPs, right? और तुम्हारे सिलेबस के अंदर सबसे बढ़िया चीज बताता हूँ क्या, फाइनेंस करंट अफेयर्स है. दुनिया में कुछ भी होता है तो वो फाइनेंस करंट अफेयर्स में आ जाता है, राइट? सो सब कुछ तुम्हारे सिलेबस का ही पार्ट है. डोंट से थिंग्स लाइक दैट कि सर ये तो सिलेबस में ही नहीं है, सब चीजें सिलेबस में, ठीक है? सो हियर द एम्प्लॉयर इज ऑफरिंग द एम्प्लॉइज shares in the company, so that with the increase in the share price the employees can also feel the ownership that we are also contributing to the company. So definitely rewards will be there in the share price increase. As the company performs well, the share price tend to go up, right? And because of the share price going up, the employee will definitely have a good amount of capital gain, right? So that's a kind of perquisite, I can say, that employers are giving. So for FPIs, there is a relaxation. We have already discussed that this particular news, I think we have already discussed that SEBI has eased the FPI role in the government security. GSFPI wala concept हम already पढ़ चुके हैं. If I talk about ESOPs, then earlier there were a lot of restrictions for the ESOPs. So startups can now include the ESOPs granted at least 1 year prior to the IPO as part of the promoter contribution. So earlier there were a lot of mess in ESOPs. However, as of now, SEBI has quite eased the compliance related to ESOPs. Okay. PSU voluntary delisting norms were earlier also there. So SEBI introduced measures to smooth the voluntary delisting of the public sector undertaking where the government owns 90% or more. So if the government is owning 90% or more shareholding in a company, SEBI has introduced measure that they can voluntarily delist as well. Otherwise, delisting takes a lot of rules and regulation to be followed. However, SEBI has given that ease as well. Okay. Next, RBI to conduct VRRR. So VRRR is not variable repo rate auction, it is variable rate reverse repo auction. तो अब तक VRR कर रहे थे, अब VRRR करने लग गए, राइट? तो ये साइकिल होता है. जिन लोगों को लग रहा होगा सर क्या मजाक चल रहा है, अभी थोड़े दिन पहले तो आप बता रहे थे लिक्विडिटी डेफिसिट है, अब आप कह रहे हो लिक्विडिटी ज्यादा हो गई है. यस, लिक्विडिटी ज्यादा हो गई है. दैट्स व्हाई RBI इज गोइंग टू कंडक्ट VRRR ऑपरेशंस आफ्टर 8 months. Right, so the first auction is scheduled on 4th of July 2025. RBI will be conducting this variable rate reverse repo auction. What happens in the VRR auction? RBI is giving money to the banks. However, in VRRR auctions, RBI is taking money from the banks. Reverse repo तो तभी होगा ना जब RBI लेगा, right? जब RBI लेगा तभी तो रिवर्स ऑक्शन होगा. To suck the liquidity out of the system, right? The VRRR will be of 1 lakh crore with a tenure of 7 days. Comes with a time when liquidity surplus in the banking is at all-time high at 2.4 lakh crore, right? So VRRR is nothing but liquidity absorption tool. RBI wants to absorb the liquidity from the system. This is nothing but a LAF only, liquidity adjustment facility only. राइट, सो डेफिनेटली इसका भी ऑक्शन होता है और RBI यहाँ से क्या होने वाला है, लिक्विडिटी को पूरा निकालने वाला है जो एक्सेस आ चुकी है ऑब्वियसली वो, राइट. सो आई हैव मेंशन्ड ऑल द टर्म्स एज वेल so that even if you are watching this video for the first time, you have just started preparing for RBI, doesn't matter, you can definitely read it from the PDF later on, and in many of my sessions I have covered these terms as well, right. SEBI proposes a regulatory guardrails for algorithmic trading, algo trading. Now there are a lot of issues in algo trading, right? algo trading क्या होता है, पर्टिकुलर कोड के algos के जरिए, एक ऑटोमेटेड कोड के जरिए ट्रेडिंग होती है, राइट? प्री डिफाइंड सेट रूल्स होते हैं, ऑन दैट बेसिस एल्गो ट्रेडिंग होती है. नाउ टू इंश्योर फेयरनेस, ट्रांसपेरेंसी, अकाउंटेबिलिटी, बिकॉज वी डोंट नो वट एवर इज देयर इन द एल्गो, राइट? So it can create a mess in the capital market. That's why SEBI is quite concerned. Because of the rising use of AI and ML in securities trading, SEBI proposes regulatory guidelines for algorithmic trading here. Okay. So what is the guardrails approach? Instead of outright ban or rigid regulations, SEBI don't want to bring rigid regulations because AI is a very good thing, it's an amazing thing, right? We all know that everybody is now using AI, and definitely it's having a very positive impact on the economy plus the individuals as well, right? So instead of following a rigid regulatory approach, SEBI says that a graded risk based framework will be there. So a proper framework will be there कि risk ज़्यादा हो रहा है या कम हो रहा है. Risk ज़्यादा हो रहा है, if the risk grading is high, then they will definitely put restrictions, they will be putting the restrictions, otherwise it's fine. Okay, so risk categorization of algos will be there कि आपका algo का risk categorization क्या है, high है या low है. Mandating the disclosures on who owns, controls, benefits from the AI tools used in trading. So there should be a inside out transparency. It should not be a black box model. What is a black box model? It's a black box, it's having a algo, and we know nothing about this algo, who is benefiting from the algo, what things this algo can do, right? So a risk based grading will be there, and on the basis of that risk categorization you will have to follow the rules and regulations, right? It should not be a black box model कि हमको पता ही नहीं है. There should be a high level of transparency. Okay, so SEBI introduces reform to promote ease of doing business for startups. I already told you about ESOPs, right? So a lot of regulations SEBI has brought for ESOP relaxation. So if I talk about, SEBI has removed the 1 year holding requirement for ESOP. Earlier there used to be a 1 year holding requirement. Let's suppose I'm working with a company and I got ESOPs of that company. I'm an employee. Okay, so you are here for the first time. So my name is Prateek Taldar, and by qualification I'm a chartered accountant. At Oliveboard I teach finance in RBI, and obviously I teach commerce and accountancy, costing and other subjects as well, all the commerce related subjects. Okay, Jameson, nice to meet you, and I'm glad that you are here. Definitely we'll try to make your experience better. We are bringing a lot of free sessions as well for RBI grade B and rest of the examinations. Okay, thank you so much. Okay guys, so I'm an employee of a company. I'm holding ESOPs. The company has offered me ESOPs, right? Now the company is preparing for an IPO. However, I don't have a holding period of 1 year. अरे अभी तो मिले थे मुझे ESOPs. I तो just recently received the ESOPs. I don't have a holding period of 1 year, so there was a earlier restriction that if I don't hold the ESOPs for 1 year, I cannot participate in that public offering. I cannot sell my share in that public offering. However, they have relaxed this requirement. They have eliminated this requirement, and that's amazing. You guys don't even have the idea कि इससे कितना बड़ा impact आने वाला है. 1 साल का पीरियड बहुत मेस क्रिएट करता था for employees. They are not able to participate in an IPO, right? And we all know that कितने IPO आ चुके हैं in 2024, 2025. So this will definitely help, right? यही सब यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है. And I have given you guys the terms as well. Okay, for later on you can study by downloading this PDF. Next is IFSC authority unveils ESG linked bond framework at Gift City. Again ESG, most important topic. Short a question will come either in the objective side or a descriptive side. Descriptive में आने के ज़्यादा chances है, ठीक है? So IFSC authority has unveiled the ESG linked bond framework at Gift City. IFSC, we all know that it's International Financial Service Center Authority, right, located in the Gift City. They have released a comprehensive framework for the ESG linked bonds here for promoting the sustainable finance in the Gift City. Now they need to align with the global ESG standards. That's why they have brought these framework, right? Okay, so the target issuers are issuers at Gift City, primarily the Indian companies who are incorporated overseas. Let's suppose an Indian company has been incorporated outside India and they need to issue a ESG related bond in the Gift City, so that's why they need to follow this particular framework, right? What are ESG linked bonds? Definitely they link your financial interest to the issuer's ESG performance as well. So we have learned it multiple times what ESG is, what ESG linked bond is, and what BRSR is all about, right? So this you need to again remember this particular news, very important. All the terminologies, green bonds, social bonds, sustainability linked bonds, we have already covered, right, in a detailed manner. You can also watch the session related to my green bond, sustainability linked bonds as well. It's a SEBI circular which is very important for your examination, right? Yes, Chetan, these companies can definitely enter this ESG bond framework. Next, PSU share in the CD issuance rises to 69% from 6% in 2 years, and that's huge. Earlier PSUs, public sector banks, used to have a share of 6%, and now they do have a share of 69% in the certificate of deposits. So I have earlier discussed as well in the, I think, initial part of my session. The first slide was related to this only, that RBI bulletin that we were discussing. We can see that the share is from 6% to 69% as of now, and that's huge, right? So in 2023, PSU banks accounted only for 6%, and now they are accounting for 69%, driven by the funding needs and liquidity pressure. अब बोलोगे सर अभी तो बोल रहे थे एक्सेस लिक्विडिटी हो गई. अरे यार 2023 की बात हो रही है, 2023 से 2025 की बात हो रही है, राइट? वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट 2023 टू 2025. तो यहाँ पे तो लिक्विडिटी इशू था ना, अब लिक्विडिटी एक्सेस हुई है ना, पहले की बात कर रहा हूँ, ठीक है? सो PSU banks basically are facing a challenge for mobilizing the low cost deposits. They don't get a high CASA ratio वाला deposit, right? उनका कासा रेशियो इतना अच्छा नहीं है एज कंपेयर टू अदर बैंक्स. So that's why they do rely on the CD issuances to raise money, right? Now CD issuances comes at a cost. Definitely CASA का जो cost होता है it's very very low, right, as compared to a CD issuance. So definitely cost यहाँ पे high आ जाता है. Okay, so do remember this data. This can be important. This can be important. And even if question is there related to PSU banks or certificate of deposit related financial instrument question, you can definitely mention this finance current affair as well, right, in the descriptive side as well, right? Okay, so data in trend, CD issued by the PSBs rose sharply from 0.4 lakh crore to 1.5 lakh crore, right? So that's a quarterly data. Again, I am telling you that the cost implication will be there. CDs are higher cost capital as compared to the other deposits, right? You need to give the higher amount. Next, RBI extends trading time for call and repo the market. I think we have already covered this thing, right? In the initial stages of this lecture only, we have already covered this finance current affairs, right? So I'm just skipping it. I don't know why it's repeated. Apologies for that. Next is PLI schemes attract 1.76 lakh crore investment, creates 1.2 million jobs. So PLI scheme, which is production linked incentive scheme, they have attracted a 1.76 lakh crore investment, and they have created 1.2 million jobs here, right? So that's amazing. If I talk about disbursement and performance, then 21,000 plus crore disbursement to 12 sectors out of the 14 notified sectors. So they have almost given 21,000 crore to the 12 prescribed sectors. The high performance sectors were large scale electronic manufacturing, IT, hardware, pharma, and you don't have to remember each and every sector, right? You don't have to remember each and every sector. Yes, Chetan, that's true. That's true. Actually, we should not compare the CD returns with that of the CASA. That's totally different, right? That's totally different. That's true. And however, we can say that PSU banks, right, are quite weak in bringing the low cost funds. So that's why I think the particular finance current affairs, I have taken that from the live mint. So that's why they have compared directly with the CASA ratio, because usually private sectors bank do enjoy a high CASA ratio, right? However, definitely it's not at all a comparison, basis of comparison. CDs are totally different thing as compared to the CASA, right? So again, there is a lot of data here, guys. In the PLI scheme, you don't have to remember each and every data, just you need to remember the broad data, right? Okay guys, so that's all from my end for today. Thank you so much for attending the session. See you soon in the MCQ session, which is scheduled tomorrow at 8 PM. Okay, thank you so much. Bye bye, take care. Okay, so it's your first class, how to download. So you can Anjali, you can download our Oliveboard application, and you can also join the Telegram channel of Oliveboard. Definitely you will be getting all the PDFs on the application as well as on the Telegram channel of Oliveboard. Okay, so link of the Telegram channel, Anjali, is there on the very first slide of my today's session. Okay, you'll be getting the link on the very first slide of my session. Let me just share the link as well with you. Okay, so here is the link, Anjali. Okay, thank you so much, Chetan. Thank you so much, Bhakti. Bye bye, take care. This is the link, Anjali. Okay, you can join the Telegram channel of Oliveboard, and please do download the application as well.